Let me turn now to the momentous climate change decision, President pulling out of the Paris Climate Agreement, garnering publicity worldwide, much of it negative. Here's just a brief look at some of what was said on the airwaves.
It is hard to think of the worst thing this president has done, but so far, this might just be the one.
This will be the day that the United States resigned as the leader of the free world.
We just watched a dangerous little man give a very, very scary speech.
The left immediately became hysterical, even more than usual.
Katie Pavlich, leave aside the pundits for a moment. Did the straight news reporting on President Trump's decision here, which was obviously not popular in many quarters and in much of the world, was it fair or did it clearly tilt against the president?
I think that it was more about attacking the president and his decision than it was about looking at what the Paris Climate Agreement actually was. This was something that was agreed to by the Obama administration. I think a lot of people, based on the coverage of the election and all of the news that we've had, really have kind of forgotten about what the Paris Climate Agreement did, what it was, what the obligations of the United States were. During the coverage, I didn't really hear about why are we in this? Why did President Obama make this decision? What are the binding factors for the United States, and how does it affect the American economy? What was the thinking behind the president's decision to pull out? It was more about calling the president a climate denier, saying that he was committing an act of treason against the American people and the world for pulling out of this agreement. There wasn't really a lot of substance and context to what the agreement actually was.
Some exceptions, I would say. Jillian, you may disagree with the president's decision, and that's fine. But it would be hard to look at the totality of the coverage, and you look at all the newspaper articles and the way it was framed and what a setback this was, and U.S. giving up its global leadership role, and to say that it wasn't largely negative. Do you agree?
Oh, I think that as a whole, the media coverage of this decision was overwhelmingly, sort of crushingly negative. And while I don't agree with the president's decision to renege on the agreement, I think the bigger point here is that it seems that a majority of my fellow Americans might actually disagree with me, in the sense that this is something that President Trump was very upfront and very forward about on the campaign trail. Almost, we were discussing in the green room, it sort of was a campaign platform issue for him. So he certainly has a mandate.
Not surprising.
Right. My personal disagreement.
Right.
I agree with all of the points that you both made here, but I do think in flipping the script a little bit, the White House has not done a good job setting up for him making this decision. And in fact, we saw, there were reports that Gary Cohn and Ivanka Trump were trying to change his decision.
Right, so there was a debate within the White House.
I understand that, but they didn't spend time messaging this over the past 2 weeks and building support for his decision and explaining why
he hadn't made a final decision. And there were leaks from the White House that pretty clearly indicated that the president, unless he changed his mind at the last moment, was going to do this.
I think based on his decision, regardless of whether they would have built up the support that you're talking about, he would have been criticized because, again, the coverage was not about what the climate agreement means for the country. It was about the president being a denier and his decision to tell the world that he's not interested in protecting the environment, which, by the way, we're not hearing a whole lot about the fact that he said, I'd like to renegotiate this deal. I care about the environment. Let's redo
because it was
this.
the next thing the president said, and it kind of got dismissed by the press as if he hadn't even said it, because it's almost like everyone was geared up for either yes or no, we're staying in, not going in. You know what really surprised me, Katie? Hours after the president's speech announcing this, MSNBC, and liberals care passionately about the climate change, they all led with Russia. Chris Matthews, Comey, who's going to testify in a week, 8 o'clock show, the 9 o'clock show, the 10 o'clock show, all about the Russia investigation.
Well, maybe, the climate change issue on the scale of what MSNBC thinks is obviously a lower issue, and Russia has been running their coverage for weeks. It's been working for them. Their ratings are higher than they've been in years. Clearly they are going to stay on that story because it's been good for them. They think that the American people are interested in it.
Now, I've said that I thought that last week Fox News played down some of the developments in the Russia investigation, but just the fact that it happened on the day of the climate change decision, whether you wanted to attack it, praise it, or try to analyze it, just struck me as an interesting moment.